my school is in a town that's 5 square miles. Driving around to those houses is simple. If you're living in a place where your school is 100 square miles, you might not be able to do that, but you can do something else.
Listening to the NAESP Principal Podcast, where school leaders connect around real challenges, real experiences, and real growth. In today's episode, Home Visits and the Power of Personal Connection, Andy Jacks talks with veteran principal Matt Moyer about building stronger relationships with students and families and creating a school culture where every child feels seen and valued. Let's get started.
Hello, welcome to the Principal Podcast here at NAESP, the podcast for principals and school leaders out there. I'm Andy Jacks, principal at Ellis Elementary School and senior fellow for NAESP Centers for Advancing Leadership. And I'm super excited to have Matt Moyer from Pottstown, Pennsylvania, highly successful, experienced principal today. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you.
So, Matt, tell me a little bit about your background on, the big thing I want to start with is you're a principal in the school that you went to school with, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So I've been at Rupert Elementary School in Pottstown, Pennsylvania for 20 years. So I grew up 3 blocks from my school. Went through Pottstown my whole, educational career, went off, taught for a few years somewhere else, was assistant principal, and then was fortunate enough to get hired back at my elementary school. And I've been there for 20 years. It's where my heart is. And like I said, it's 3 blocks from my home. At one time, my mom was a volunteer at the school, still lived in the house that was 3 blocks from the school. So yeah, it's been an incredible experience.
So I want to talk in this episode a lot about just how you're engaging families and engaging in community and just the all-in approach that you have. But before we dive into that, how does you living there and being connected, authentically connected, how has that affected your leadership at that school?
Well, I think for one piece, it's just that this is my school. These are my people. This is my town. And like any small town, you have to understand the town. You have to understand the community. And having grown up there, and things changed from the time I graduated high school to the time I came back. But, understanding, knowing people, knowing the town, I can tell you where everything is in the town and where, when you say, hey, let's go to 123 Chestnut Street, well, I can find that place in 2 seconds. So, it's really like a lot of small towns where 5 square miles where I know the town, I know the people, I know the culture of the town. And that I think makes a tremendous difference when people come in from outside of town to work in our district. There's a learning curve there that
sure
I didn't have to have.
And this sounds funny, but you actually know how to get places pretty easily. You just really know, oh yeah, it's right down the corner, it's right over there. And I'm sure even when you're connecting with families, you're like, oh yeah, I used to ride my bike there. Or
yeah, that's for sure. And I try to, I'm a little bit older now, so it's harder for the kids to relate to me because they can't picture me as a kid. But, little Matty Moyer rode his bike down the same street. And guess what? My house I grew up in, that's right across the street from your house you're living in right now. So there definitely a lot of those things.
That's funny. So, the big thing I know you and I've talked about this before, but the way you engage families, I think, is phenomenal. And how you, like I said, take this all-in approach. One of the things that you do is home visits. And I know I've done some home visits and we were talking about some tips on that. So I want to dive into that a little bit because when people see a post, you post all the time about, I went to this family's house, we celebrate and all that. But I want to dive into the exact procedures, how you really arrange that and how you make that work. So walk me through that because you're going to kids' homes to celebrate successes, right? So how do you pick which kids you go to? How often do you go? How you actually schedule it? Do parents know you're coming? All that kind of thing.
Sure. So first and foremost, I need to say that this only happens with outstanding teacher support. And so I have a fantastic group of teachers that buy into this being valuable and being important, and they love it as much as I do. And I always say it's the best hour of our marking period. So here's what we do. Once a marking period, at the end of the marking period, we go to one child's house from each grade level. So we are a kindergarten to pre-K, actually to 4th grade school. So we're going to 5 houses. And a couple weeks before, my lead teachers get out to everyone and they say, hey, it's time. Let's pick one child from each grade level to go. And so basically teachers kind of rotate. Teacher says, hey, it's my turn. I'm going to pick someone. And what we try to do is we try to acknowledge a child who's not necessarily the child who's getting acknowledged all the time. So you try to pick a child who is one that we're going to identify for a very specific reason. It might be that they've had big growth in one area, or they're really hardworking, or they were a great citizen, whatever the case may be. And the teachers select that student, and they do a specific write-up that we put onto a certificate that is read at the house. And that's directly from the teacher, that has very specific. So it's not like we're coming and saying, hey, great job, Johnny. We're coming and telling specific things. And then a week or two before we go, the teacher picks up the phone and they call that parent and they say, hey, we're coming on this day between this time and this time. Usually takes us about an hour. So we get an hour window there, and the parents know, but we make it clear, hey, don't tell your child. We want it to be a secret.
Okay.
We want it to be a secret from your child, but we want you to know, so we make sure we're coordinated, because when we knock on the door, we want to make sure you're home, right?
Yeah.
So we get all that organized. We gather all of our materials. We have big yard signs that we put in the yard. I bring a cowbell and a megaphone. That was new this time, which I loved. And we try to dress up in school shirts if we can. If it's not, sometimes we go in January. So January, you can't do that. But in May, totally do the school shirts. And we gather all of our folks together. And we leave. Takes us, like I said, about an hour. We go, we knock on the first door. When they come out, rigging the cowbell, everyone's making noise with their noisemakers. If there's people around in the community, I'm letting them know, hey, we're here to see this child for the great thing they did in school. And then I read the certificate to the child. We take a whole bunch of pictures that get posted on all of our social media pages. Moms and dads are there. Sometimes they invite extended families. We've even had some families that invited us in. They had baked goods for us. They wanted us to sit down, which we did for a little bit with them, because they were just so happy for the experience. And every child gets a t-shirt, the yard sign that goes out front that says Rupert Impact Winner, and their certificate. And something new we just started this year was a magnet for the parents, so they can put it on the fridge or on their car to let everyone know that they had an impact winner. And it is the best hour of the marking period. There's all smiles for everyone. We've gotten some just fantastic stories, and the kids are surprised. It's interesting their responses, because they're not used to seeing their teacher anywhere but school, right? The teachers live at school, right? No. So it's just been a fantastic experience.
Well, I love how you really laid that out with the details, because that's exactly what I was trying to get into. Because I think there's so many times we talk about these strategies and ideas, but we don't get into how do you actually do it. It's like, because I find I get away from, I hear something and I'm like, oh, that's a good idea, but I don't know how to take the steps, right? And I love how you're really talking about, scheduling with the parents, yet it's still a surprise kind of thing. Now, simple questions. The sign, does it have a kid's name on it or no?
No, it just, I bought, a whole bunch of them, the big yard signs like you put out for, hey, sign up for football or whatever. It just has our, big logo on it that they can put out there. And hopefully, we always say, show off to the neighbors.
Well, that's a perfect example of you just buy a bunch of them at one time and just use them, right? So you're not having to personalize all this stuff and make it super hard. I love that. So how's the response been from kids whenever you show up?
Well, there's the whole gamut of responses we get from kids. We've had kids that are, jumping up for joy. They're super excited to see us. We've had just shock that they're really kind of in disbelief that all of these people just came to their house, because we'll have a group 10, 20, 30 people sometimes, depending on when we go. We've had some kids that have turned around and ran to their bedroom and locked the door, and we had to get them out because they were just in such shock to see them there. So we get the whole gamut of things. But I think after the shock wears off from them, they just, they come to school wearing their T-shirts, and there's a real joy for them to say, wow, these people took this time to come and see me.
Well, in response, I bet your teachers love it.
Oh, they do. It brings them.
We talked about, and I don't mean to interrupt, but we talked about how, if someone wants to get started on this, which is kind of my next question, and then we're going to dive into a little bit more of some other things you're doing. But if you want to get started on this, there's probably some hesitation with teachers, right? So how do you get past that part with you guys?
I think, you just have to go one time. It's like a lot of things. You have to try it and go one time. And once you go, the teachers that go, and I have some teachers that go every single time, regardless. And I have some teachers who only go when it's their students' opportunity. But when you go, you get that feeling, and you can see the joy that you're bringing. And so, you have to just, if you convince one or two people, and like lots of things, I have a fantastic teacher leaders that take this on as their project. It's It's not my project, it's theirs. I just go along for the ride. I'm a member of the team. I read the certificates and everything because as principal, I guess that's my job, and that's fine. I love it. But the teachers that go, once you see how much fun it is, and our teachers love our kids. So
well, and I want to dive into this rabbit hole for a second, because just knowing you, this is part of who you are. But like when you go do these things with teachers, there's two ways to do it, right? It's either you're the boss or you're like a friend almost. And even when you're the boss, you're never really like friend, but it's a kind of an approach, right? So that when you're going, you're going together. It's a group thing. It's fun. It's laughter. We're all in it together kind of thing, And I think that's what people actually appreciate. Teachers appreciate that.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Like, hey, where are we going next? Who's the next person? I'm driving the truck, but I'm not driving the bus.
That's what I'm saying, right? Yeah.
I drive my vehicle, whoever wants to come with me, but the teachers are in charge of it. They come, the teacher leader, hey, this is the route we're taking today. This is where we're going first, second, third. All right. And since I know the town, as we said, I don't usually need directions.
Well, that's what makes you kind of the friend boss in a way. Like it's like you're in it together. You're more relaxed, and it's like another experience that you can build on as a school culture, right?
Oh, it's a great way to build your team together, because we're just having a good time, fun and laughs, and you never know what's going to happen when you get to the door. And there's a lot of little fun, great stories that have happened along the way. One of my favorites I have to share with you, I think my first or second year there, we got to a house and one of the students' little brothers had one of those orange hug juices, and he got so excited he started jumping up and down and waving his arms, and I got covered in orange hug juice. And it's just one of the, those kinds of stories abound from these things, and everyone loves remembering those things. It's just a great time.
That's awesome.
This conversation is a reminder that strong ideas don't have to look the same in every school. The value is in hearing what others are trying, then asking how could it work in your own community. While attending an NAESP conference, Principal Amy Schott reflected on that same kind of learning from fellow school leaders.
Yeah, conferences are the absolute best way to connect with colleagues from across the country. I learn something from every event that I attend, at which there are principals and administrators from across the country. It's always refreshing to hear that we are dealing with the same challenges, but principals in different schools and different districts and different states are handling them in unique and different ways. And we learn so much from each other when we attend those conferences.
Who will you learn from this summer? The National School Leaders Conference, powered by NAESP, brings together principals and school leaders from across the country to share ideas, tackle challenges, and grow together. Join us July 13th through 15th at Disney Coronado Springs Resort in Orlando, Florida. Learn more and register at naespconference.org. Now, back to the conversation with Andy and Matt.
So, it's kind of taking a segue here, but you've been a principal now for 20 years?
This is, yes, 20 years as a principal, 3 years as an assistant.
Jeez, so 20 years. How do you stay? I mean, I'm 16 now. How do you stay energized? Because you've been in 20s for this school.
Correct.
So 20 years in one school, how do you stay energized? Now you probably have like, even as a principal, you're getting close to where you could have like kids come, like generations.
I do have some. Really? Yes,
yeah,
there are definitely some.
I've hired teachers that were students, but now you could have like kids of students. And so how do you stay energized? Because I see you doing all sorts of fun things. You're getting pies in the faces and you're getting, all the things, right? So how does that, because you're a pumped up guy with this, how do you stay that way?
I mean, I think it's just, when you're doing what you love to do and what you're passionate about, and that's what I tell my students, what I tell my own children, you've got to find the thing that you're passionate about. And when you are passionate about it, it's not ever, it's work. It's hard work, but it's easy to bring the joy to it. And you have to find the joy. And listen, in school, the little ones are the most fun. The kids are the fun. I've been there for 20 years, but the kids are always new and different kids coming through the door, and you never know what they're going to say or do. And that's just always a joy, always so much, pleasure there. So when you center yourself in the kids and what they're doing, and you center yourself in, this is my mission in life, this is the place where I want to be, that's where that energy can come from, because this is the thing I still really want to be doing.
Right. And I think you just said something that really resonated with me is like, I want to also be like, enjoy this experience, right? And, I want teachers to enjoy it, the kids enjoy it, I want to enjoy it. And if you can create this atmosphere of like, yeah, we're just having fun and we're working hard, we have a good mindset on it, then it's a very contagious atmosphere, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you're in kids and staff are in school the majority of their day, the majority of their week, the majority of their life. And so why wouldn't you want to make it a place that is full of fun and joy? Yes, we got serious work to do, but we have to be full of joy. And I'm coming to this place. I put a lot of hours in. It better be a place that brings me some joy, or why am I there?
Exactly. And so what are some other things you do to try to build that culture of your school?
So I think in terms of like things with families and engagement type things, one of the things that I think is important is building kind of your every year we have these the same types of things at the same time of year that become a tradition. So one of them that I inherited that we've been doing for over 20 years that is outstanding is called a reading picnic. So every year in May, we my parent group, it's called the Friends of Rupert, they have some book fairs and they use the profits from that to buy every student a book. And in May we have a huge picnic. So every single child gets a book, and a ton of parents come out. We flood the lawn with lawn chairs and blankets and all kinds of things, and we spend an hour having a picnic. And those are things that families look forward to. They say, hey, this is a tradition at Rupert, and they look forward to those kinds of things. So I think those things are important, and also making it that the personal connections, again, like our teachers. My teachers are just phenomenal at making personal connections with teachers and with parents, and letting those parents know, I love your child. I only want what's best for them. And they build those relationships and do a great job with that. Through a variety of means. And we have a number of other things we do to engage parents at a grade level. So we used to do bigger events like donuts for dads and muffins for moms. Nothing wrong with those, but we've traded them in for the next best thing, I think, which my teachers came up with, which is, hey, Matt, we would like to do by grade level one event in the fall, one event in the spring that invites parents in. So they have all kinds of great things they do, like someone's special lunch, for example, which what I love about someone's special lunch is, well, if you're having donuts for dads and dad is working, he can't get there. But when you have someone's special lunch, well, we can invite anyone special to that. It could be mom, dad, aunt, grandmom, or whatever the case may be. And they've come up with a lot of other great activities. Another one my first grade does in the fall is all around Thanksgiving themes. And my favorite part of that, shout out to my music teacher, Miss Foose, who teaches everyone the turkey tango. And the parents get up and they do the turkey tango with their kids. So, making our school a place where kids want to be and families know, hey, we're a great place to be. Your child's at a great place all day, and we want you here too.
Yeah, and I know for me going to a new school last year or so and trying to engage families that are historically a little challenging to engage, we've had to like really reach out and tell them like, this is important for you to do. Like, let me explain what this is for your child. This isn't you just coming to school and whatever. No, your child's going to want you to be there. They're going to miss you if you're not there. They're going to notice you not there. We're giving an award to your child. So we notice that if we're doing certain things, we get more engagement than others, right? And that's one of them. If you recognize their child, they're so proud of their kid. They love their kid, and they'll be there for them. But we've had to like really explain to them what we're doing because all of our families understand like the game of school and all that, right?
Well, I think, for a lot of our families, everyone has a school experience, right? Everyone went to school. And for some of our families, we have to remember that school wasn't necessarily a great joy for them when they were a child. And now we're asking them to come back into a school, and just walking through the door can create anxiety for them until we help bring that anxiety down and let them know this is a great place. So because parents have had that experience, if their experience wasn't good, we've got to make sure that they understand that this is a good place and that your children, like you said, want you here for these things. And we always try to build events and things that a child's going to go home and say, hey, mom, dad, grandmom, grandpa, aunt, uncle, whoever it is, I want you to come to this thing. And when you're creating those kinds of events and those kinds of things that kids want parents to come to, parents are much more likely to come when their child says, it's important to me, can you please come?
And on top of that, you really have to think about how can you find a way, and of course we're, at the elementary level, we're talking a lot about this, but at all levels, how do you find a way to really have every single student to be celebrated at least like one time during that school year? Because there's a lot of kids who they're not celebrated. They're not earning these awards or not making these achievements. And so it becomes a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy where they don't see themselves as successful and they don't see themselves as having that agency and all that goes with it. And then they just don't care as much. They don't try as much anymore. So that's something I've been thinking a lot about too, is making sure that down the line, every single one of them, it really makes a difference. And if you can't find it, you have to find a way. If you're struggling with your student, you got to figure out something. And it's sort of a different approach than like everybody gets a trophy thing, because it's not meant to be, we just do it to do it. No, you do it for a very intentional, meaningful reason for that child. You find something in them that's going to be special and novel that you can really celebrate, right?
Absolutely. So we do that in a couple of ways in my school that I think are fantastic. Out of the gate, teachers call every single, child at the beginning of the year, which is phenomenal. But we also ask them to, a couple of times in the year, reach out to individual parent about something specific with that child. Sometimes it's through a postcard, sometimes it's through a text message, sometimes it's through a telephone call, and really reach out with a positive, specific positive. Something else that I like to do is I give all my teachers proud of my selfies postcards. And when a student in their class does something, all they got to do is fill it out, send the child down to me. We take a selfie together. And I send that picture then to the parent. I might email it, I might text it, and we post it on our social media. So just what you said, it's very specific to that child. Hey, this, an easy example is, hey, this child's made great growth on their reading comprehension. This child's made great growth on their math skills.
Right.
And so it's very specific. I make a big deal with the student, takes almost no time at all. And then I send that to the family, like I said, either in a text or an email, and we post it out on social media to give that child a shout out, because you're right. Every single child needs to know that they're special and they're doing good things. And when they do good things, we're going to acknowledge you and make sure you know that you're important. And we recognize when you're doing those things.
And coming from a school now, we have a language barrier for a lot of our families. And so there's probably a lot of people listening that have that same issue. And I really want to stress to them is you cannot use that as an excuse to not engage. There's sort of this inherent connection that you can make through any language, and there's so many tools now where you can get support for that or get your people to help you with it that can connect. But certain things parents just get, like if you're trying to recognize and celebrate a kid, even if they don't get every single word, they know what you're doing and they appreciate it, right? And that's that long-term connection with that family makes a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because we've had students whose families don't really speak English or don't speak much English that we've gone to their houses. They get 2 certificates. One is in English and one is in their home language. And if we can, we bring someone along who can read it in the home language.
Right.
And the technology exists today with text messaging apps that will allow you to communicate with that parent in their home language, so that, I'm sure the translation isn't perfect, but the parent can get the message and understand, oh, my teacher's letting me know that my child did a great job on their reading test, or whatever the case may be.
Exactly. So kind of wrapping up a little bit is if you have someone who's thinking about, okay, I want to take it to the next level, right, with family engagement, and what would be like maybe 1 or 2 things that they have to do?
I think you really need to make sure you're working with your team and let your team at your school know, hey, this is the concept. How are we going to do it our way? And it needs to be our way, not my way as the principal, but our way. I'm going to come to you teachers and I'm going to say, I want to do something to celebrate kids and acknowledge kids. How can we do this? Let's bat around some ideas and figure out the way we're going to do it, because the way I'm doing it might work well for you, but you might say, well, that doesn't work too great. My school is in a town that's 5 square miles. Driving around to those houses is simple. If you're living in a place where your school is 100 square miles, you might not be able to do that, but you can do something else. And so work with your team, bring it to them, and don't be afraid to challenge them to say, hey, this is something we want to do. How can we do it our way that's going to make sure our kids are acknowledged and feel great about school?
And one thing I would add to that too is do it with them. Like you're doing these visits with them. That's so critical. But even like phone calls, don't assume that they are very comfortable calling. I mean, I don't know if we've been in the game for a while, you and I, but like, do you remember like when you first became a teacher, you weren't necessarily comfortable with calling parents? It's kind of scary in a way. And I think a lot of teachers are like that. So you calling with them, I think makes a big difference, because, you're just modeling, you're showing that it's easy. You're showing them like how like these little steps you do maybe that kind of makes it work for them. And then they can easily do it after that, right?
Absolutely. I think, one of the things we do provide to our teachers is at least, hey, here's a script that you can use if you want to. So, it gives you the opportunity to say, here, and we know this is challenging. I know it's hard. You know, you're a first year teacher and you're calling your students' parents. That's nerve-wracking. Totally. That can be scary. I can model it for you, and I'm going to give you something so you have a resource to help you know the kinds of things that you could say in these phone calls.
And I would say as a first step is, you said it earlier, call for good reasons. I mean, it's so much easier, even as a principal, right? When you're calling for good reasons, those are easy conversations to have. When you're calling for tough reasons, they're not fun to have. And so I think you get used to them more when you call more good reasons,
Yeah, we ask all of our teachers to contact every student's family within the first month of school, and with only the good things, and the really great teachers that I have, they get that done in the first week because they recognize how important it is to have a good relationship with the parent. And when you get a phone call from the teacher, the first thing you think is, oh no, what did my child do? But when the phone call is, you know what they did? They did something great. Let me tell you all about it. Wow. What a feeling a parent must have for that too, to feel pride in their child. Hey, my child's teacher's calling me to tell me something good. That's not something every teacher does. And it's a great experience for the parent.
Yeah. And I think you have like generations of kids their parents have never heard a good call, right? And so it's like one of those underrated, easy things to do that we talk about, but we don't always do, right? So I'm gonna challenge everybody out there to go make that happen. There's one point in time where I need to get back to it, where I was making a certain amount of calls every single day, and the nice part about that is it changes your own mindset on how you view your kids and how you view your school, because when you're just intentionally making good calls all the time, it psychologically affects yourself to be just feeling better about what you do.
Oh, well, yeah. When you're making that feeling that you get, it's as much a pick me up for me as it is for the parent when you're making that phone call or you're sending that text. I can't emphasize enough the technology that's available to do. Hey, snap a picture of the child with their A+ paper or with their project that was great or with a big smile on their face or whatever it is. And you send that to the parent and a short text that says, Mary did this today. Outstanding. Takes you 30 seconds, and that 30 seconds is going to make that student and that family's day.
And talk about language, because our programs automatically translate all languages, right? So I have a picture printer in my office, so I can actually print it out for them too, which is kind of fun. This year we also did a kindergarten signing day. I don't know if you've done that before, but that was pretty neat because all the kids are coming in and we got this massive pencil. So it looked like they're signing, their first day coming in, and parents were all like, what is happening? They loved it. We're all taking selfies with them. It was such a cool experience.
Well, you mentioned about printing out the pictures and something that we do that is old school, but is another great idea is deposit a postcard home in the mail.
Yeah.
And, how often do we get anything good in the mail? How often do you get anything good in the mail?
Right.
Not often, right?
Ads and bills, right?
Yeah, ads, bills, that kind of stuff. But to get a postcard that says something, and again, it doesn't take you long to write it out, and you put it in the mail. Old school works sometimes too. It doesn't always have to be a text or a phone call. So the postcards are great too.
All right, so we'll wrap it up on that. I think there are so many easy first steps that people can take. So there's really not a whole lot of excuses for them, right?
Absolutely.
So make it happen. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you being on.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
To explore more resources on family engagement, school culture, and school leadership, visit the Resource Hub at naesp.org. The NAESP Principal Podcast is produced by the National Association of Elementary School Principals. Learn more about our community and membership at naesp.org. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the NAESP Principal Podcast and share it with a colleague. Together, we're building stronger schools and stronger leaders.